Hey friends, tonight we are taking a very long, very quiet step back. Back to a time when the biggest question wasn't, what's for dinner? But, am I dinner? Before we begin, let's set the mood. Dim your lights. Pull a blanket around you. If you have a fan nearby, let that soft hum play in the background. It helps. And if you enjoy these slow journeys into history where we wander through forgotten lives and fragile moments, you're welcome to subscribe. Or just let me know in the comments where you're tuning in from and what time it is. I find it comforting to imagine this strange little circle of people around the world, all listening in the quiet together. All right, let's drift. 4.7 million years ago. The Earth wasn't empty, but it wasn't ours either. It was crowded with teeth, claws, wings, and eyes that glowed at night. Our ancestors were there, but they weren't yet what you and I would recognize as human. They were survival embodied. Small groups living from moment to moment. Every single day, the act of waking up alive was like winning a lottery ticket. There were no houses, no doors to shut, no locks to click into place. You went to sleep wedged into the arms of a tree, praying the branch didn't break. Or you curled on the ground, hoping that the shadows nearby belonged to your companions, and not to something waiting for you to fall deeper into sleep. Privacy. It didn't exist. You slept with your group for warmth, for safety, and for the nervous comfort of knowing that if something attacked, at least it had choices other than you. When you rolled over, you might see your cousin's face, a half-squashed beetle, or the unsightly evidence that last night's berries disagreed with someone. You didn't complain. Complaints required energy, and energy was reserved for survival. The first ritual of every single morning was listening. Really listening. The forest and the grasslands never stopped speaking, and every sound mattered. Birdsong meant daylight and maybe breakfast. Buzzing insects meant warmth, not frost. But heavy footsteps, a sudden silence. That meant you should already be halfway up a tree, your heart pounding as you prayed you weren't noticed. If the world outside your dreams seemed clear enough, you stood carefully. Getting up wasn't casual. It was courage. Because anything could have arrived during the night. A lion lying in the grass, a python stretched in the morning sun, or the fresh droppings of something large and recently nearby. Once you'd established that you weren't about to be chewed on, you looked for your group. Alone was death. Groups were insurance. Someone else's eyes scanning the tree line meant maybe you could survive one more day. Appearance didn't matter. There was no mirror to check. If there had been, it would have told you what you already knew. Your hair was matted with dust and leaves, your skin smeared with dirt, and your makeup was pollen and berry juice from yesterday's scavenging. But none of that mattered. You were breathing. The sun was up. You were alive. Task 1 complete. Breakfast was never guaranteed. It wasn't toast or coffee or even a plan. It was whatever you stumbled across first that didn't immediately poison you. Maybe a fig tree, its branches heavy with sweetness. Maybe a bush dotted with berries, the kind your group vaguely remembered eating without dying. Eggs were a treasure if you could climb high enough, though angry birds often tried to peck your eyes for the privilege. And, sometimes, breakfast came in the form of a half-eaten carcass left behind by a predator. Free meat, yes, but also a terrifying question. Was the predator still nearby? And how angry would it be when it returned to find you gnawing its leftovers? Eating was fast. Always fast. Lingering too long meant turning into someone else's breakfast. Meals were crouched, standing, or on the move. No plates, no utensils, just raw chewing, and the vague hope your stomach could handle it. Water often counted as breakfast, too. A handful scooped from a stream or a puddle. It was rarely clean. It almost always came with parasites and bacteria. But thirst was worse than risk. So you drank, ignoring the earthy taste, hoping you wouldn't spend the next 3 days doubled over. Every meal was a gamble. Sometimes you walked away full. Sometimes you walked away sick. And sometimes you didn't walk away at all. Finding water wasn't hard. Finding safe water was fantasy. Streams shimmered in the sun. Ponds mirrored the sky. But every surface hid dangers invisible to the eye. Parasites, bacteria, creatures too small to see but large enough to make a permanent home in your gut. Still, thirst was not negotiable. So you crouched at the bank, scanning for ripples that weren't wind, shadows that lingered too long under the surface. Crocodiles were patient. They needed you closer. If it seemed safe, you drank quickly, bent low, the liquid muddy and cool. Sometimes your group discovered tricks scooping water with cupped hands to stay farther from the bank, or finding small pools left behind by rain, as though the earth itself had offered you a private cup. Still, the result was always the same. Water was life, but life rarely came without hidden teeth. There were no clothes, no outfits, no wardrobes. You wore whatever clung to you overnight. Dust, crushed grass, smears of mud. If you were fortunate, maybe a strip of animal hide remained from a past kill draped across your shoulders. If not, your only armor was your own skin and the insects constantly sampling it. Seasonal changes weren't met with sweaters or coats. If it was cold, you followed the sun. If it was hot, you searched for shade. If it rained, you got wet. Washing meant walking into a river and hoping the current pulled some of the grime away. 10 minutes later, you were dirty again. Occasionally, body decoration appeared clay smeared for insect protection. Streaks of berry juice rubbed into skin. Maybe it was meant to impress. Maybe it was just boredom. Either way, it washed off the moment it rained. Footwear. Not a chance. Your calluses grew thick, like stone. Yet one sharp rock or thorn could still send you hopping in pain, the prehistoric equivalent of stepping on a Lego. The world was full of predators. Cats crouched in tall grass. Hyenas laughed in the dark. Snakes waited silently for the exact wrong step. There was no warning system except the scream. The scream meant something terrible was happening right now. It didn't matter what. Everyone screamed. Everyone ran. The details were figured out later, if at all. Survival meant constant vigilance. Your eyes scanned the trees. Your ears strained for twigs snapping in the wrong direction. Every rustle was both harmless breeze and potential death. Living in a group helped. The more eyes, the more warnings. But it also meant sacrifice. The unwritten contract was simple. We protect each other, but if a leopard grabs you, that's between you and the leopard. Before language became the sprawling web it is today, communication was minimal. Grunts, gestures, stares. Pointing was universal. At food, at predators, at anything that might matter. But pointing was vague. Point at a gazelle, are you suggesting a hunt? Point at a bush, are you suggesting shelter or warning about bees? Only the eyebrows revealed the truth. Grunts covered the rest. A low hum might mean approval or choking. A sharp bark of sound might mean, that's mine, or watch out. Context mattered. When things became truly urgent, everyone relied on screaming. And when you screamed, there was no confusion. Everyone ran. Hunting was supposed to be simple. Find animal, kill animal, eat animal. In practice, it was misery. Animals were faster, stronger, and better adapted. A gazelle could vanish in seconds. A boar could turn and gore you. Even rabbits disappeared into holes before you'd finished crawling toward them. Weapons were rocks, sticks, bones. Throwing a rock worked best if you were standing close enough to touch the animal anyway. Otherwise, it was just a polite request for the prey to keep running. Hunting was a team sport. The fastest chased, the others waited ahead, praying the prey would stumble into their path. Often it didn't. Often you returned empty-handed, nursing bruises and hunger. But sometimes you succeeded. A lizard caught sunbathing, a bird's nest raided, a rabbit too slow. A small success was enough to feed the group, enough to feel like the exhaustion and fear had been worth it. Gathering was safer, if less glamorous. Roots dug from the soil, berries pulled from bushes, nuts cracked with painful determination. Bright colors usually meant poison. Bad smells usually meant danger. Sweetness meant safe, though not always. Hunger meant you tested anyway, hoping today wasn't the day your guess killed you. Honey was a jackpot, pure gold in calories. But bees were ancient too, and they didn't share kindly. Gatherers avoided the dramatic risks of hunters, but danger still lingered. Snakes in bushes, wild pigs defending their meals, other humans eyeing your basket with hunger. Still, gathering was reliable. It was steady, and in a world where certainty barely existed, reliability was salvation. Home was whatever you could find. A cave, if you were lucky, though caves were often pre-owned by things with sharper teeth. Negotiation usually involved shouting, waving sticks and running away when it didn't work. Overhangs, hollow trees, stacks of branches. None of them were comfortable, none of them permanent, but they gave the illusion of safety, and sometimes that illusion was enough to sleep. Placement mattered. Too close to water, and floods or crocodiles would find you. Too far, and thirst would. Every choice was a gamble. Every night, an experiment in not dying. And so, life carried on. Day after day. Night after night. No plans for the future. No vision of tomorrow. Just existence, moment by moment. Waking alive, drinking cautiously, eating desperately, sleeping lightly. Surviving not perfectly, but enough. Because enough was all it took to move forward, to sustain life, to carry humanity through teeth and claws and darkness, slowly, step by step, into the future. And tonight, as you lie safe, with doors locked, walls sturdy, and blankets warm, remember, all of this comfort was built on their fragile victories. The miracle of simply waking alive one morning at a time. Sleep well, dream gently, and I'll see you in the next journey.